I'm going to tell you the story of the journey down the road not taken. These are the sordid tales of how it all came crashing down. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends.
Involving the trafficking of human.
The Baron claims that fluid karma is safe, but he...
We understand from now 69.
President Bush was receiving warning.
You can see right there a car bomb.
So there's this movie called Donnie Darko, and if you haven't seen it, I'm guessing you've at least heard of it. But for the sake of argument, let's say you haven't. Donnie Darko tells the story of an angsty teenager from suburbia named Donnie, who gets woken up in the middle of the night by a large rabbit costume that looks like Satan named Frank. Frank tells Donnie that the world will end in 28 days. 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds. And just to add a little validity to that statement, when Donnie gets home, he finds that a jet engine has crashed into his room. And what's more, there is no plane to go with that engine. The 28 days that follow tell the story of how the world ends. This was director Richard Kelly's first film, and the reason I bring it up at all is because you would think after getting a cult following, his second film would be a little more successful. Well, no, actually. Southland Tales did even worse at the box office, and the critics hated it with a passion, mostly complaining about the dialogue and how confusing the story is. Like Donnie Darko, this is a story about how the world ends. Except that here it's arguably a more biblical interpretation, set to the backdrop of a slightly futuristic California. It's an odd tale to say the least, but despite what the critics have to say, I think this one's worth a look. On the 4th of July of 2005, two simultaneous nuclear attacks against the US left it in chaos and ignited World War III. Because of the war, the Patriot Act was given more power, enough power to even censor the internet. Because of that censorship though, large numbers of anti-government extremist groups started popping up left and right. Biggest one in this case being the neo-Marxists. Fast forward to 2008 during the election season. Boxer Santaros, a famous actor who happens to be married to the daughter of a major Republican figure, vanished and reappeared in the Nevada desert with no memories. Tricked into believing he's actually in a relationship with the porn star / prophet, the two of them write a script about the end of the world, and he is going to be the lead. In order to do research for the role, Santaros decides he needs to go on a ride-along. But things take a turn for the bad real fast, and suddenly Santaros finds himself in the run from the Republicans, the neo-Marxists, and an evil alternative fuel company from Germany. In reality, the story revolves around a whole lot of people, but the central characters seem to be Santaros himself, Krista, the porn star, and this police officer and his twin brother. And I'm not going to lie, the story is weird. It's out there. Personally, I think it's very good, but I'll come back to that in a bit. Everyone in this movie does a wonderful job. Truthfully, most of the cast is comprised of established comedians, so I'm guessing they're no strangers to picking up strange roles. Still, I got no complaints with the cast. While I do have to give props to Sean William Scott for pulling off a dramatic role in a time when he was mostly known for his goofy characters, I think the performance that steals the show is the one by Dwayne Johnson. Okay, so here's the thing. Nowadays we know the guy can act, right? Well, back then he was still establishing himself as an actor, and this was the first time I saw him in a movie and I thought he had genuine potential as one. And while he's still a little rough around the edges at this point, he still manages to become one of the best parts of this movie. Some of the special effects are beginning to show their age, specifically the CG. But honestly, the movie looks fine. Even the stuff that looks old doesn't really hurt the experience. The cinematography itself isn't anything special, but it is unique enough that it helps the movie become just a little more memorable. The background music comes to us courtesy of Moby. This music here is very foreboding. Really gives you the impression that something is boiling underneath it all. It's not threatening though, it's just ominous. In the interest of full disclosure, I do need to tell you that there's a musical sequence by Justin Timberlake about halfway through the movie. Not one of his songs actually, and I know the idea sounds dumb, but trust me when I tell you that this is actually one of the most memorable parts of the movie. Okay, so aside from the acting, the visual style, and the music, the movie also has a lot of social commentary regarding things like politics, fame, philosophy, reality TV, and modern attitudes about all of them. Honestly though, I don't know if we're supposed to take any of it seriously or even if the movie's trying to say something with those concepts. But be it one thing or another, it is a big part of what makes the movie so much fun. Okay, so here's the deal. I like the story for this movie. I do. But while I was doing research for this, I found out that most critics hated it. I also happen to know that I'm not the only person that likes this movie, so what's with the gap in opinions? It actually reminded me a bit of what happened when Scott Pilgrim vs. the World came out. Half of the critics liked it and the other half didn't. And here's the funny part. The people that liked it talked about how much they enjoyed the visual style of the movie, the video game concepts and the modern motifs. And the people that hated it talked about those exact same things. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the difference of opinion is rooted in the age difference of the critics. I'm guessing that the older ones just couldn't find anything relatable in the movie and dismissed it as juvenile. I think it's the same principle here. I don't know if it's an age difference again, but I'm guessing there's a similar factor. There was just something about the movie that didn't click with those critics. It just didn't speak to them. But one way or another, I do have to put the story in this section, because even if I liked it, when all is said and done, it was to the movie's detriment. Other than that, the movie isn't perfect, by any stretch of the word. It is full of little flaws here and there, but nothing so bad that it's gonna kill the experience for anyone. Originally, I wanted to end this by saying, hey, this is a good movie, and if you watch it, you're going to like it. But that clearly wouldn't be true for everyone. And I know, the same thing could be said about any movie. But in this case, there really does seem to be a very decisive factor about it. So, for that reason, I'm going to say that even though you can find the movie pretty cheap just about everywhere, don't buy it until you've seen it. Oh, by all means, watch it. You can rent it, you can stream it, whatever you like. As weird as the movie is, it is something worth checking out and finding out for yourself if it's something you'll like. It has a lot to offer and it is an quote-unquote interesting take on Revelations. So how about we go with this? I like this movie, and if you watch it, you might like it too, and we'll leave it at that.